And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann Report for today, a manic Monday. It is Monday, April 29th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I want to just welcome new listeners from Redmond, California, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Albuquerque, all of which we've heard from today, and also new listeners out of Boston. Welcome. Folks, you're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D. We look beyond the headlines and the bylines and the agendas, and we bring you the news behind the news. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our home base, of course, is HomelandSecurityUS.com. And by the good graces of the Christians United Broadcasting Network, you can find us at the following URL. That's the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, where you can watch and listen all at one time. That's the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, all spelled out. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, and thank you for your belief and your trust in us as we walk through this minefield of current events together. We're a listener-supported broadcast. I want to thank everyone who's helping us stay on the air through your financial support, your contributions, your prayers, and your guidance. Joe, it's a great day to be alive.
Yes, it is, and I want to say we had a great day today. We were on Pastor Paul Begley's show earlier this afternoon from noon to 2. And then I just got done with the Vinnie Eastwood show. I was on there for 2 hours. Vinnie Eastwood out of New Zealand. And tonight, you're going to be on Coast to Coast.
That's correct. So we've got a full dance card.
It's been a long day, and we still got a bunch more stuff to do. So let's jump right into the news. And
well, you know, there are so many things that are taking place here. We're seeing, my goodness, we're seeing things happen in Syria. We're seeing things happen here in this country. We're seeing, if you've been following Boston, I mean, my goodness, and I want to warn people too. There are professionals out there who will take advantage of the situation. What these professionals will do will exploit the innocence of people. For example, someone trying to get to the bottom of the actual story, they'll forward an email to someone and say, look, this picture or this situation, it just doesn't seem right. And there are professionals out there who are targeting the recipients of those emails and attempting to make the people, the watchmen, if you will, look like fools. And we want to just warn everyone that don't believe everything you read. There are holes in the story, the official narrative of Boston. My goodness, there are so many holes you can drive semis through. But that doesn't mean every picture that you see is true or hasn't been photoshopped. So just be very wary of where you get this information, because the ultimate objective here is for these professionals to really make you look like the fool and make you look like, well, gee, you know.
They have whole sections of government agencies devoted to doing this.
Exactly. So while we have to point out the holes in the stories, the holes in the accounts, while we have to point out the fact that, you know, there doesn't seem to be, or there seems to be, this template of things taking place overlaid. For example, you know, there was a drill running the day of Boston. We all know this. Ali Stevenson, I believe his name is, the coach from the University of Mobile, Alistair Stevenson. He had pointed out that there was a drill on the day of the bombing, and it was bomb-sniffing dogs and extra police presence. Of course, there was a drill during the bombings in London, and there was a drill in Spain, and there was a drill on 9/11, as a matter of fact. Are we not seeing a template, perhaps? Are we not seeing things that we should question? And even if, given that case of a drill in Boston, even if that was legitimate, how does that make you feel? Knowing that there were bomb-sniffing dogs that never sniffed out the bombs, or how does it make you feel that we had assets there that never identified the people, the bombers, or even the most wanted person?
There's been a release on April 16th, FBI document and Homeland Security document, indicators and protective measures in light of Boston Marathon explosions. On this, they list ongoing concerns with terrorism in the homeland. And here are some of the examples they give. 1, November 2010, plot to detonate vehicle bomb at annual Christmas tree lighting in Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
Wait a second. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Remember the FBI?
Yes.
Was the one that were running these guys, that they were never real explosives.
Right.
Okay, so that was never a real threat because what they did was take a patsy or somebody who said that they might want to commit violence, gave them the real vehicle, the fake explosives, in this case fake explosives, and then arrested them. Unlike the the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, where it was the same situation, only the FBI gave them the real explosives. Also on here is the attempted detonation of a vehicle in Times Square, and they have a IED discovered in 2011 along the Martin Luther King Unity March Parade in Spokane, Washington. To my knowledge, that was also carried out with FBI supervision. So more often than not, and they list the Christmas Day attempted bombing on here as a homegrown terrorist, these lists of attempted terrorism are more often government-ran than not.
Of course.
Admittedly government-ran.
I have got, in fact, it might even be the same type or the same document, or the FBI created 17 false flag terrorist attacks. I don't know if that's what you have there or not, but according to Judge Andrew Napolitano, in the past 10 years, there have been 20 terrorist plots here domestically in the United States. So if you're listening to this overseas, I'm sure you've got your own that you're contending with, but here in the U.S., 20 terrorist plots over the last 10 years. 3 of the plots were real. By real, we're saying it had no external FBI or DHS involvement, but were discovered and stopped by private Americans. The other 17 were created and then stopped by the FBI. And the apparent purpose of these false flag operations, well, it was to deceive Americans into believing that we're under attack by foreign or domestic terrorists who are fictional. And based on the false flag, or based on the false belief, rather, that we're being persistently attacked, Americans tend to accept, and even our government's invasions of foreign countries and our own growing police state, we tend to accept that. We tend to say, look, we need to invade these countries to stop these attacks domestically, or we need to curtail our freedoms here at home, as evidenced by, and I look at this with somewhat incredulous. I look, it's great that we stopped I say it's great at face. If you believe what happened in Boston as it happened, the people who were clapping and chanting USA with the capture of the alleged terrorist suspect, the belonging suspect, I understand that sentiment, but this is what's being created. That sentiment there is what exactly is what they're after. You know, Joe, if you want to fly in an airplane, you've got to be X-rayed, you've got to be groped, you've got to be, you've got to subject yourself to all sorts of physical humiliation. Every government agent, right up to the president, who authorized or participated in these 17 that we know of fraudulent terrorist attacks or attempted attacks, should be tried for treason. Honestly, they should. It's creating an atmosphere of fear, and then taking the people who don't know what's going on and creating really creating enemies of them against the freedom-loving people. So it's
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to start off tonight where you mentioned last night we had a show with Pastor David Langford and Steve Quayle. It was a tremendous show. And in here, in the show, you mentioned a news article that came up while the show was ongoing. Pentagon taps anti-Christian extremists for religious tolerance policy.
Oh, this is, folks, this is so important, but it's so insane. Please listen to this.
This is from Breitbart.com. Today we face inevitably well-funded gangs of fundamental Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's armed forces. Those words were recently written by Mark Weinstein, founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. In a column he wrote for the Huffington Post, Weinstein will be a consultant to the Pentagon to develop new policies on religious tolerance, including a policy for court-martialing military chaplains who share the Christian gospel of during spiritual counseling of American troops. Weinstein decries what he calls virulent religious oppression perpetrated by conservative Christians, whom he refers to as monstrous, unconstitutional carpetbaggers, comparing them to bigots in the Deep South during the Civil Rights era.
Right.
He cites Dr. James Dobson, the famous Christian founder of Focus on the Family, as illustrating the extremist, militant nature of these homophobic organizations, rhetorically charged propaganda. Regarding those who teach Orthodox Christian beliefs from the Bible, Weinstein concludes, let's call these ignoble actions what they are, the senseless and cowardly squallings of human monsters. Weinstein then endorses the ultra-left Southern Poverty Law Center, no surprise there, whose list of hate groups, published their list of hate groups alongside organizations like the KKK. Southern Poverty Law Center lists traditional Christian organizations, such as people who stand up for traditional marriage, the Tea Party organizations supporting limited government. He says they are all hate groups.
Right.
So now this guy is going to be at the Pentagon teaching religious freedom policy out of the Pentagon with his views that Christians are bigoted, carpetbagging, unconstitutional monsters who oppress people with their religious beliefs.
Well, what we have is the influx of the Muslim Brotherhood into the military for the express purpose of taking down our military from within, to weaken our military. But see, look, the whole ultimate agenda here, folks, is not to elevate Islam over Christianity, although that's part of it. But the end result here is to take religion out of everything, so we have nothing but a state religion. That's the ultimate objective. You know, look, we face an incredibly, according to this Weinstein, and I want to read this comment once again. He writes, today, we face incredibly well-funded gangs of fundamentalist Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's nation's armed forces. Where in the hell are the Christians, the Christian monsters? Where are they? You show me, Mr. Weinstein, where these Christian monsters. Identify the Christian monsters. Who is this idiot? Who is Mickey Weinstein, the founder of Military Religious Freedom Foundation? Let's get him on the phone. Let's talk to him. Let's grill him. Let's put him up against a committee of Christians. Let's find out what Weinstein's agenda is. You know, we don't have to. You know why? Because Weinstein is a satanic Luciferian idiot who thinks that people will tolerate this kind of bunk. And it's about time that we as Christians stand up and say, you know what, Weinstein? You don't deserve 1 second of our time. Not today, not ever. Ever. And Huffington Post. What a piece of trash. What a waste of electrons. Huffington Post. Weinstein could be a consultant to
All right. No, that's all right. He just blew the speakers and the eardrums. I was
unconstitutional carpetbaggers. What is this guy? A 60s hippie? Seriously.
I did not have time to do the research on who he is.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
But you know what? Obama factor here. You know, he cites. Did you talk about this? He cites Dr. James Dobson, the famous Christian founder of Focus on the Family, as illustrating the extremist, militant nature of these virulently homophobic organizations, rhetorically charged propaganda. And I'm serious. I am really, really aggravated. Okay, at Mickey Weinstein. Hey, Mickey. Let's get him on over. Let's get him on the program. I'd love to have him on the program. I'd love to find out what makes this guy tick. Aside from the satanic aspect, and you know, this reminds me too, Joe, of and I know you're tired of talking, and for folks, frankly, I'll tell you what, my mouth. I had surgery last week in my mouth, and I haven't been. Doctor says they try not to talk too much. I've been talking ever since. All right. So it's the size of a grapefruit. It feels like it anyway. And it's kind of like somebody poking me in the face with a sharp stick. So my nerve, it's my nerve that's left is barely there. But the fact of the matter is, this reminds me of Douglas Coughlin from the Pentagon, who wrote this 330 some odd page report about Islam. About these Islamic leaders infiltrating the Pentagon. Compliments, by the way, of George W. Bush. Compliments of Grover Norquist. Compliments of the Republicans who think that we could coexist. That the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph and Jacob is the same God as the God of every Islamic person out there, which is an absolute falsehood. You know, it's just, what are we doing to this country? We're destroying it from the inside out. And I'm sorry if you think that I'm a little bit crass, but I got to tell you something. How much more are Americans going to take? How much more are Christians going to take? When are we going to stand up and say enough is enough?
Well, let's listen to this news clip here on marriage. Gay marriage is a lie. It's a lie, destruction of marriage. They want to destroy marriage through gay marriage. This clip from a lesbian activist, Maisha Geeson, author and outspoken activist for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. Her speech has now gone viral, and it includes a theory that many supporters of traditional marriage have speculated about for years. The push for gay marriage has less to do with the right to marry. It is more about diminishing and eventually destroying the institution of marriage and redefining the traditional family. Here is what she had to say.
I agree. It's a no-brainer that we should have the right to marry, but I also think equally that it's a no-brainer that the institution of marriage should not exist. So that.
Oh, listen to that Sharon.
That causes my brain some trouble, and part of it, why it causes me trouble, is because fighting for gay marriage generally involves lying about what we're going to do with marriage when we get there. Because we lie that the institution of marriage is not going to change. And that is a lie. The institution of marriage is going to change, and it should change. And again, I don't think it should exist. I don't like taking part in creating fictions about my life. That's sort of not what I had in mind when I came out 30 years ago. I have 3 kids who have 5 parents, more or less. And I don't see why they shouldn't have 5 parents legally. I don't see why we should choose 2 of those parents and make them into a sanctioned couple. And because between those 5 parents we have 2 groups with 2 different citizenships, 2 groups of 3.
You might need to take us through that.
All right, so there you have them saying what they really mean, that they want to. Gay marriage is a lie, and all this has to do with is destroying the traditional definition of marriage, and they want to get rid of marriage completely. And you heard the clapping. She said, what was her quote? She didn't care about gay marriage. The real agenda is destroying marriage altogether, the definition of marriage altogether.
Well, at least they're being honest about it. Before it was a hidden agenda. Now we can point to this lesbian. That's what she is, right? She's a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's a Okay, so we can point to this homosexual and say, okay, this is the actual agenda of the homosexual crowd. End of story. It's about time that the news media cover stories like this and cover the Gosnell trial, where the truth of abortion, for example, comes out. The infanticide, all right, comes out. What this monster and these co-conspirator monsters allegedly, because there's still a trial going on, allegedly did at this Philadelphia abortion clinic. Where in the world are the reporters on this story? What did you say today, Joe, that really got my goat? 109 minutes worth of news about this absurd trial between, some college students? 109 minutes, and not one flipping second that they could afford about this abortion trial?
Of course not. The reason being, if they really had to show the horrific, murderous nature of these abortions, people might change their mind and perception about how they view abortion.
Yeah, let's describe. Read the 200-page indictment. Okay, how they describe these viable human precious lives that cry before their spine is cut and their brains are sucked out. And if that offends anyone, I'm sorry, but that's what this monster did. All right. But I fault the news media. I fault look, when you start looking at who is responsible for deciding what to cover, where do you go? Okay, I turn on my television set. You got CBS, ABC, NBC. Then you've got the cable channels, MSNBC, that's Puke Fest. Then you've got Fox. Then you've got MSNBC and the rest. All right. But when it comes down to it, who owns all these places? You got about 6 people, 6 families? Who are these 6 families? Who are the people that make the decisions over what to cover and what not to cover? You got Fox, you got 12% ownership by a Saudi royal. Oh, isn't that great? Yeah, bragging that he can change the headlines to avoid any type of use of the word Islamic terrorism in that one instance. And if he can do it once, he can do it more than once. And then if you got MSNBC, which is just filled with fruitcakes and I was going to use another F word there, but I'm not going to. Fruitcakes and fruitcakes. Okay, you see what's going on here? You've got this revolting, and I mean a revolting misdirection. The news is we are being forced to watch things like this silliness that goes on with this one trial. Yet the horror behind the deaths of these children, these otherwise viable human beings. We can't cover that. That's too offensive. That's too offensive. Well, Hillary Clinton, Margaret Sanger, and if you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, that's Hillary Clinton's heroine, and Margaret Sanger is, of course, one of the biggest racists who ever lived. She's dead now. But Margaret Sanger was a racist who was all for abortion, and especially if the children were black. Boy, that's even better. Let's kill all the black kids. That's Margaret Sanger. That's the heroine of Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, will probably run in 2016.
And this is our current president's view on abortion.
As long as we've got to fight to make sure women have access to quality, affordable health care, and as long as we've got to fight to protect a woman's right to make her own choices about her own health, I want you to know that you've also got a president who's going to be right there with you, fighting every step of the way. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.
That was President Obama.
God bless Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. And what I want to do here is I'm going to play this clip, Rand Paul from today. This segues into the next piece of news we're going to hit. Here's Rand Paul. This is only a minute.
And any issue, sir?
Well, you know, if the government's going to use cameras to watch us, they need to have probable cause. They need to have an argument to use the Constitution to do surveillance on us, and then I'm okay with it. But willy-nilly on everybody all the time in open spaces, I'm against that. One thing that's lost in this debate, though, is almost all the cameras that were used to catch these young men in Boston were private cameras, and I'm not opposed to private companies using surveillance cameras to protect their property.
Senator, we were in Times Square, and we talked to a bunch of people, and with to the T, to the very last person, everyone said, I want more cameras. I want it, especially in areas that are prone to attacks. They want more. Why shouldn't we have more?
You know, I think in the aftermath of a terrible tragedy where all of us wanted to get these young men who committed this atrocity and we want to see them tried and convicted, I think there's a lot of emotion and anger towards this. Right after 9/11, if you interviewed people, 70-some-odd% of people said they would trade their freedom, all of their freedom, for security. That number's now more back to 50-50, which is about where it always is. But I think it's important to know it's a slippery slope, and someday you may have cameras everywhere. Think of 1984, where the cameras were in your bedroom and in your dining room, everywhere. You never went a moment's notice without being watched. There is a downside to that, and we have to be careful not to slide in that direction.
You're right, Senator. I'm in the camp that says more cameras. If I'm not...
All right, there was Rand Paul talking about the need, no need for more cameras, no need for government intrusion, taking it to the next level. But here, a story from WorldNet Daily. Americans fear government more than terror. According to a pair of recent polls, for the first time since 9/11 terrorist hijackings, Americans are more fearful of their government, that they will abuse their constitutional liberties, than fail to keep citizens safe. Even in the wake of the April 15th Boston Marathon bombing, in which a pair of Islamic radicals are accused of planting explosives that took the lives of 3 and wounded more than 280, the polls indicate Americans are hesitant to give up any further freedoms in exchange for increased security. A Fox News survey polling a random national sample of 619 registered voters the day after the bombing found Americans responded very differently than after 9/11. Those surveyed April 16, 2013, 45% said no to the question, compared to 43% answering yes. The question is, would you be willing to give up your personal freedoms in order to reduce the risk of a terrorism threat? So
By the way, that's what I'm going to be on Coast to Coast tonight talking about during the news hour. Tom Denheiser got me at a vulnerable moment today, and I said sure I'd go on during the news hour, but that's the subject of my dissertation, and I'll try to keep it, I'll try to play nice and color within the lines on Coast to Coast. But this is what it's all about, isn't it, Joe, in the end? And I heard you a little bit talking in New Zealand, your voice resonating off the walls of homes in New Zealand. Kind of hard for me to believe, 30 years ago you were I was changing your diaper. But anyway, this is what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, this in the end, isn't this what it's all about? We are a nation that fears our own government, and it's got to stop, folks. And Boston was a part of it.
I'm going to go right to another clip here. Pro-gun Democrat Joe Manchin won't stop until there is gun control, despite what the American people say.
Manchin. I'm going to start calling him Manson. Look, these people are insane. These people are literally, I swear, I believe these people are legitimately insane by definition, because they are so, look, to the people who own guns out there, you don't think about your guns every day. You don't hold your guns and caress them and
speak for yourself.
Oh, yeah, I did see you sleeping with yours. No,
I do.
But see, you don't do that. You're not obsessed by your weapons. You're not obsessed by your ammunition. These people have a psychological obsession, and think about it. But you know why? Because they're going, folks. They are going to disarm us. And I want to thank Marianne. She sent Joe and I a book called "Surviving the Economic Collapse: The Modern Survival Manual." It's written by a guy that was there every step of the way during the Argentinian collapse. Okay, you're going to need those guns, folks. You're going to, among other things. You see, they are disarming us because they are planning on taking us over. They're planning on making us slaves. They're planning on, and if you think that this for 1 second, if you think that I'm overstating the case, they're going to take your wives and your daughters, and they're going to have their way with them. Don't think for 1 minute that they're not going to do that, because history tells you otherwise. I'm sorry. Go ahead and go into a clip or something? I can't remember.
Yep, going to a clip. This is pro-gun Democrat Joe Manchin.
Senator Manchin, you and fellow Republican Senator Pat Toomey were the co-authors of this expanded background check that was voted down a few days ago in the Senate. You're talking about revising the bill, bringing it back to the Senate floor. It came out today that your co-sponsor, Pat Toomey, says, no, I'm done with it. Do you really think that the expansion of background checks can be revised and can be passed by the U.S. Senate?
I truly do. The only thing that we've asked for is that people would just read the bill. It's a criminal and mental background check, strictly at gun shows and online sales. The way the law is today, if you go to a gun store, you have a background check done. If you go to a gun show and you go to a licensed dealer, they still do a background check. But you can go to the next table over and have no check at all. You can go online if you buy a gun out of state online.
But Senator, respectfully, we knew all that beforehand, and your colleagues didn't vote for it.
Chris, I think there was some confusion. The first bill that came out basically was dropped, was Chuck Schumer bill, which is all-inclusive. We talked to Chuck, and he backed off of that, and we worked on what we thought was a much better bill, especially coming from a gun culture that I come from in West Virginia. I had gone down and worked the bill into the coal fields, into the gun-friendly West Virginians that I hunt with and sport shoot with, and all of them to a T, when they saw the bill, this basically not only protects your Second Amendment right, it expands your Second Amendment rights.
But and we're running out of time here. Pat Toomey co-sponsor of Manchin-Toomey, says he's done
I
with
don't
it.
think he's done. I really don't. I was with Pat last night, and Pat's totally committed to this bill, and I believe that with all of my heart, and we're going to work this bill. When people read the bill, if they'll just take time to read it. I've said this, if you're a law-abiding gun owner, you all love this bill. If you're a criminal, if you've been mentally adjudicated through a court, you probably won't like it. But while we're doing, we don't infringe on anybody's rights, individual rights, transfers of families.
But I want to make it clear, you are going to bring this bill back
Absolutely.
to the Senate floor, and you think it's going to be different this
I
time?
truly believe that if we have time to sell the bill and people will read the bill, and I'm willing to go anywhere in this country, I'm willing to debate anybody on this issue, read the bill and you tell me what you don't like. We stop registration completely from the standpoint of a felony with 15 years of imprisonment.
And as part of the idea here that you are going to strip it away and separate it from...
The bill needs to be clean, I believe. That's my belief, that if a bill runs clean and people can vote on this bill up or down based on the merits of this bill, how it protects a gun, Second Amendment.
All right, enough of that. Just more lies and nonsense coming out of the Washington circle of garbage. We have this Manchin saying, this really is going to... And for these people to think anything from a total gun ban to simple registry is going to do anything to keep guns out of the hands of criminals by them is absolutely insane. We just need to look at drugs, which are completely illegal, yet the United States is the number one ingests the most drugs, 50% of the nation's drugs, just in the United States, but they're illegal. But somehow they make their ways here.
I want to comment on this. Okay, this drug stuff. I had such a hard time getting my pain medication for my surgery. It was. I'm not going to get into the details, but I had the pharmacist on the phone, and I'll tell you what. If I could have reached through the phone and grabbed her by the throat, and she knew I was in pain, and she knew that I was like a bear with a sore behind, okay? And the law-abiding Americans cannot, I mean, you've got to have a note from your doctor, 2 signatures from Congress, your mother's DNA, and the, I don't know, a rabbit's foot in order to get what, Sudafed or Actifed or whatever feds, the stuff that they use to make methamphetamines. You can't buy it in the aisle. And then when you do go buy Sudafed or Actifed or whatever that stuff is, you've got to show them your license, and you've got to prove you can't buy more than 2 boxes. You've got to do plus. Oh, if you do, you're put on a list somewhere. Give me a break, okay? How much sense does all this make? So you're telling. See, I'm going off on the drug tangent, but see, you brought it up. You're right. Our system, we have a dysfunctional government. The key word here is dysfunctional. And the key is to keep it dysfunctional, because that's the only way that they are going to win, is if it maintains this level of dysfunctionality, this level of insanity. And don't be fooled for one moment, by the way. We are the biggest offenders of international law. This Obama regime, the Napolitanos, the Holders, the Kerrys, the Clintons, all these people. We're the biggest gun running operation the world has ever seen. Just think Benghazi, and no, Benghazi was not about a thwarted kidnapping plot. It had nothing to do with the blind sheik. It was all about gun running, and it still is, except this time the guns are coming from a different direction, that being Croatia, among other places. But see, it's okay for the American CIA to run guns and run drugs, but don't you dare try to buy more than 2 boxes of Sudafed or Actifed, or don't you dare think that you could buy more than, or you can buy a magazine with more than 10 rounds in New York, or 7, or whatever it is, because you're a bad person.
Meanwhile, The United States is moving closer to military intervention in Syria, exploiting the unsubstantiated rumor that Syria used chemical weapons. Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham went on the Sunday news shows to push for military intervention in Syria. Graham predicted Syria would become a failed state by the end of the year without military intervention. He has said not intervening would result in war with Iran because Iran's going to take our inaction in Syria as meaning we're not serious about their nuclear weapons program.
So it's a fait accompli.
I mean, this is just so.
Look, we're going to war, and folks. We told you this.
Well, I think we're in war right now. Yeah, we are going to war, and Lindsey Graham went on to say the whole region is going to fall into chaos if we do not go to war with 500,000 soldiers.
Hey, Free Republic. Hey, Jim Robinson, where I'm banned over there, Free Republic, and your Republican bots. How y'all feeling now about Lindsey Graham when your sons and daughters, we told you, see, the articles that you spiked, my articles that you spiked, Mr. Olive Garden, the articles that you spiked, that said that we were going to war in Syria, we were facing World War III. So the people that post on your forum that are now whining and saying, I didn't know that. Okay, how you feeling now? Huh? We warned you about this. We warned you.
That kind of sounded like a seal, beached, looking to get back in the water there.
I probably look like one, too. No, look, I'm done with my rants. Folks, look, seriously. I am done with my rants. But we're trying to get the truth out there. And do you understand that we're facing World War III here? Do you understand that this is for all of the marbles? Do you understand how serious this is, that you could wake up tomorrow and there could be a draft and your children, your adult children, could be being drafted? And that we could be seeing bombs. And do you understand how serious this is? I know you do. But to your neighbors, to your friends, and the fact that this just didn't happen. You see, and to the people who made fun of us, anyone, whether it be God bless her soul, I just had I'm having a senior moment here. The woman that the attorney Orly Tates that we had on, you make fun of her because she's fighting to get Obama to have him prove his eligibility, and of course we're that's all distraction. You think for one moment that Obama is not in this very moment in time as selected as the president of the United States? Do you think that he is not here to complete a job? How do you think he got here? By the way, folks, I'd like to direct you to an article I just put up. It's called Bad Moon Over America. There's two places, if you don't mind. HomelandSecurityUS.com and CanadaFreePress.com. Please read this. It's kind of a lengthy read at 2,700 words, so it's probably 3 times the normal length of an article that you would normally read. But it has personal experiences in there along with the larger picture of things. It's kind of a larger picture article. I did this in a drug-induced haze, so it should be entertaining as well as informative. Insert laugh track here. Okay, now, I'm sorry, I'm reading from the teleprompter. I guess what I'm saying is if you don't mind, like it on Facebook, spread it around on the social networking. We're trying to get this out. I think that the message behind this is important, and definitely leave a comment at Canada Free Press because that does attract search engines. It does. We're fighting, by the way, search engines. The search engines are Google and Bing are the 2 search engines right now that are actively fighting against the truth.
What they won't do is categorize this in the news category of their search engines.
Right. Plus, for example, there are algorithms that people have made that will, if the word eligibility shows up, or if the word zero for Obama, and all variations of these search engines are being manipulated to draw these cyber warriors to these various sites, to inundate the sites with traffic. So there's denial of service attacks. So legitimate, normal people like you and I can't get on, number one, and number two, also draws these cyber warriors over there to quote debunk the facts. And the programs are actually being run through Google and through Bing as search engines. So use alternative search engines. But that said, please, HomelandSecurityUS.com and also CanadaFreePress.com, if you don't mind. It's not that I'm pimping the articles. I'm pimping the message. The message has to get out. It's called Bad Moon Over America. And like I said, written in a drug-induced haze, entertaining as well as informative, but it's a big picture of things behind what's taking place today. And if we don't stop what's going on, then we are going to shed blood. See, 3 people reportedly died in Boston, and the numbers, how many? A couple hundred were seriously injured. We're going to be crying over a lot more than that in a very short period of time if they have their ways, if we continue with this Saudi globalist agenda. And I believe truly that they're not intending on stopping. And I really think between the defanging of our military, between the economic factors, the moral debasement of this country. And I don't know whether you saw this sickening story, and I'm just going to reference this. I'm not even going to go beyond it. But this girl in Pittsburgh. By the way, is this what we send our kids to college for? I mean, if this was my daughter, I would walk to Pittsburgh, drag her by the hair, and drag her back and show I would. Okay, I would. Okay.
I'm not sure what you're about to get into, but yeah, you would for minor offenses. So I'm imagining what you're about to read is nothing minor.
CMU parade, Carnegie Mellon University parade of freedom of expression.
I heard about this.
Okay. You know what? I'm not even going to get into it.
No, I think you should read just a little bit about what it was about and what happened.
All right. I got to get my blood pressure meds here. All right, look. The students at Carnegie Mellon say it's freedom of expression. And I'll tell you something, okay? If this is freedom of expression, I want the same girl to do this. I want her to dress up as Muhammad in the same fashion, okay? And then we'll call it freedom of expression. You dress up as Muhammad. You got the cojones to dress up as Muhammad, call it freedom of expression, go for it. Then I'll clap for you. Because you know why? Because you don't have the guts. Because... and not only that, you'd be sued from 7 Ways to Sunday, and also you would be called a bigot and an Islamophobe and worse, and you'd have suits. But anyway, here's the deal: this student puke at Carnegie Mellon says it's a freedom of expression, but the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh calls it inappropriate and disrespectful. You think? Well, here's what she did. At an annual art school parade, this female student dressed up as the Pope. Well, just from the waist up. The waist down, she had nothing. Nothing. She was naked from the waist down. And then passed out condoms. And I'm not going to get into the rest. I'm going to stop it right there. There was more, but let's just stop it right there. If you want to read about it, read about this.
Yeah. But try handing out biblical literature on the sidewalk there.
How about she dresses up as Muhammad and yeah, it takes Christian tracts and hands them out, and let's see what happens. And we'll call that freedom of expression. And let's just see what happens. Let's just see how long that will last, and who will back her. And of course, she's getting backing from all these people. And but where's the outrage over this? There's barely any.
Well, as far as the outrage is this, People aren't outraged at the abortions that are taking place daily. People aren't outraged. I was reading a story here from RT News feed. This was from 1:36 this afternoon. Somalia famine kills 260,000 people. The 2011 famine in Somalia killed an estimated 260,000 people, half of them aged 5 and under. According to a new report published this week, the aid community believes that tens of thousands of people died needlessly because the international community was slow to respond to early signs of approaching hunger in East Africa in late 2010, early 2011. The report is being made public on Thursday by FEWSNET, a famine early warning system, and by Food Security and Nutrition Analysis Unit of Somalia. Now, that's the end of the report. So 260,000 people died in a famine in Somalia because of slow action or inaction. How fast did we send troops over there, set up drone bases and military complexes in North Africa? How fast are we sending people, weapons to the Muslim Brotherhood, making sure that the Syrian rebels are getting their aid?
Wait a second. How many people?
260,000 people, half age 5 or under, died of starvation because of international...
Why don't we just drone them? Let's just drone them.
Probably because the bombs are expensive. The money that they use to build the bombs to kill people could have fed all these people, I'm sure. One bomb.
Well, yeah, it's ridiculous. I never thought that today, in 2013, I mean, I remember the 70s somewhat, but oh my goodness, what have we done? What have we done? What are we doing?
That's just it. What are we doing? Here, I'll hit this story, then we'll go to break. And we'll come back after my father takes some nitroglycerin and his blood pressure medicine. A child abducted by Child Protective Services after parents seek a second medical opinion. I'm going to play this audio here.
A Russian couple living in the U.S. are battling to get back their 5-month-old baby boy who was seized by Child Protection Services. The authorities stepped in when Alex and Anna Nikolaev sought a second opinion after their child was diagnosed with a heart murmur and was ordered to undergo immediate surgery. My colleague Sean Thomas managed to catch up with the boy's parents.
We've been shocked when they walked in our door and all they've been saying is just, let us see your son if he's okay. And I said, I'm holding him in my arms. He is okay. You can take a look. And they're saying, give me your child. And that's when they took away no paper, whatsoever they've been providing, and they just walked out of our door.
Was any reason given behind the 9/11 call from the hospital after you took your own child to another hospital for a second opinion? I mean, have they given you any reason whatsoever?
They say that he's in emergency, that he's almost dying, that he needs medical treatment, and that he needs to get back to the hospital immediately.
Do you believe this?
No, he was fine. He was laughing. He was eating. He was a normal child, a normal baby to go home.
And he was released from the other hospital we took him to. The doctor released the baby and did a statement, said the parents are basically good to go home with their baby. The baby is safe in their arms.
Very interesting. Now, taking a step back, Facebook and social networks, they are a way for you to get support. And you said Facebook shut down a page that you set up to get support for your case. Did they give you any reason why they closed down this page?
No, I think it has everything to do with the government. We got a lot of support. We got a lot of prayers, a lot of people who were there, just praying for us. And all of a sudden, the first Facebook page they blocked. We called Facebook, basically my sister-in-law called Facebook, no answer. Every question that she was asking them, there was no answer coming back. We opened a second Facebook page for support. Same thing happened again.
Your child hasn't been allowed home in 4 days. What's going through your mind?
It kills me. I don't have my baby with me at nighttime. I just been visiting him 3 times today for an hour, and then you're leaving at 7 o'clock with, again, an empty heart going home. Your baby's not with you. You're just feeling empty. There's missing something in you, and we're just waiting for tomorrow's day just to, like, coming in this court, hearing good news, taking your baby, going home, or going to a different hospital.
Well, the parents are now facing tortuous court proceedings, and according to their lawyer, it will take time, effort, and patience to bring the child back home.
History says that CPS will win this case at the initial spot. Judges will tend to err on the side of caution. I am hopeful that when all of the evidence is put forth and the facts are shown, it will be very clear that these are wonderful parents who have taken every measure to care for their son, have done everything appropriately, and have done nothing more than just liked one particular doctor and wanted to have their son cared by someone who they had faith and confidence in.
We're going to take this crap lying down. Is this what we're going to do?
No.
This is kidnapping.
Remember Melissa Harris Perry saying parents need to get rid of the idea that children belong to them. Well,
of course.
What did this couple do? This couple took their baby to a hospital. The one hospital wanted to perform heart surgery on the baby. They said, you know what, we're going to get a second opinion. They took it to another hospital, their baby. They were discharged from that hospital. The doctor said, okay, you can go. Police showed up to their house. The first day the police showed up to their house, they saw the baby. It was in good health. And they said, okay. They left, only to return the following day and take the baby. After bullying their way inside the house, they sat the parents down and they grabbed the baby and left. So, because they decided to get a second opinion, and this is the only stated reason I can see, they had their child taken away.
Now do you know why that we get upset with Melissa Harris Perry, her lunatic ramblings that children belong to the collective, that you as parents don't have really any authority over your children? What kind of lunatics are running this asylum, really?
Her quote, we have to break through our private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families. End of quote.
And of course, that's an extension of Hillary's, it takes a village to raise a child. These are all communist, and I mean communist with a capital C, communist phrases, and words mean things. So maybe lean forward for MSNBC's tagline means that you should be ready to accept the thrust from behind. As you bend over to lean forward. This is what it's all about, because this is in fact, this is what my article, Bad Moon Over America, is about. It's about grabbing your ankles collectively if we don't stand up individually and collectively to take a stand right now. And I mean right now, because soon, we were going to see a third world war. We're going to be toe-to-toe with Russia eventually, and China. Russia and China have already geared up monetarily. That is to say, they've created a monetary reserve to kill the dollar. And remember that article, Just Kill the Dollar, that I wrote about. That Kyle Bass had talked to a senior Obama official, of course, about just killing the dollar. Explained to me on what planet that killing the U.S. dollar makes sense from a United States perspective. And of course, that article did get a lot of traction. I would also urge people to spread the word about that article as well, because that speaks volumes about the economic war that we are facing. And see, the people that are going to get hurt the most are the Americans listening to this, you and me. Anyone, I shouldn't say just the Americans, anyone using a U.S. currency as their reserve currency. We're going to be hurt the worst. And you know who's going to be hurt the worst? The middle class, the people with the $500 or the $1,000 or the $10,000 or whatever you might have in savings and annuities, investments, or whatever you would have, you're going to get hurt the worst. They're going to take your money. That money is going to be gone. And I'm going to tell you something. It's coming. And we get called as alarmists by people on various websites, web forums, and such. We hope we can live up to the term alarmist, because now is the time to sound the alarm. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann, not to be confused with my son, Joe Hagmann, co-host of Together We Are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And this is a manic Monday, the 29th day of April, 2013. This is a live broadcast. If you're listening to it live, that is. And once again, welcome to listeners in Redmond, Las Cruces, and Albuquerque. Aren't you glad you tuned in? We're right back after this time. Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have a long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood: KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, April 29th, 2013. Joe Hagmann here, along with my co-host, Doug Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Some bad news for New York City school kids and parents. Department of Education wants to expand the school day. This from CBS New York. The school day is about to get longer for some New York City school kids, and we're not talking about a couple of minutes. It's going to be about 2 to 2.5 hours longer. If the scores go up, the plan could be extended citywide. CBS 2's Marissa Kramer reported Monday. City officials hope, so they're launching a pilot program with 2,000 middle school students to see if an idea whose time has come will work. It's where the achievement gap really seems to grow in New York City. About 3/4 of 7th and 8th graders, 3/4 of 7th and 8th graders do not read at a proficiency level. City Council Speaker Christine Quinn said.
We're still illustrating the literacy level. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, under a pilot program that will start in September, 6th graders at 20 schools throughout the city will stay in the classroom at least 2.5 hours longer for intensive language tutoring every day. They will continue the longer day into 7th and 8th grades. If they outperform other kids, the city will seek to expand the program. I don't see this as a city initiative to make kids smarter. They can make kids smarter by changing the curriculum they teach them, not the time that it takes them to teach. The only thing I see with the time additional adding is the time that they're kept away from their parents and the influence of their parents.
We have to replace indoctrination with actual education. We've got to get rid of the Department of Education, which was a communist plank to begin with. Folks, if you don't understand that, and I think it's so important for everyone to understand what the Department of Education, why it was set up, who set it up, and what its objectives are. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Department of Education is no friend to education. It's indoctrination, 100%. It's to suck the intelligence from your child and to replace that intelligence with nothing but this state-sanctioned pablum. That's what this is all about. And you're right. See, in order for us to have a class act education system, the whole system has to be working in concert together correctly. You've got to have a solid family unit from which to send a malleable child to school. No, I'm not talking about a home with Steve and Robert and Maggie and Sue. No, I'm talking about a husband and a wife, married in a stable environment. You send that child to a school with educators who actually teach things like math and history. Oh, history. Not revisionist history, not the Bill Ayers history, but history. And then, of course, you've got to, and you know what? They should also teach responsible gun handling as well, and require the children to bring in their own .22 long rifles at a certain time when they're of age, the appropriate age, and then have them teach them how to handle weapons appropriately. That way there's no accidents or fewer accidents, and no one's afraid of weapons or guns, and people understand the importance of them. Okay? And now that's what we need. So we need to replace these educators with actual teachers.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need.
Yes, I do agree. All right, we're going to be moving on into some other...
All right, what's... And by the way, folks, what's up with this audio tonight again?
I jumped off and jumped on as a guest. I jumped off the host call and jumped on as a guest. Are you hearing distortion? Because I was hearing distortion on the main call.
All right, so apparently what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to contact the hosting provider and get this audio resolved again. And but that said, but see, going back to the New York City, you've got Bloomberg, and I understand he's not directly involved in this process, but as the king mayor of New York City, he should be. somewhat directing the process. But we need to kick the Department of Education the heck out of our educational system, close it down, save some money, put some teachers instead of educators in these schools, and teach our children the proper subjects. That way we can be once again first in education like we were. And we need to again, it starts with a solid family unit, which we're not getting. Look, there's so many other pieces to the news, or other parts of news as well, that we need to get to. I know that I've gone on rants here, but I think it's important for people really to get their blood going a little bit once in a while, because you see, we need to really have a handle on the path. They're grabbing our hands, folks, among other appendages, and dragging us down this rosy path here to a third world war, to economic Armageddon itself. This is what we're facing. And I just want to say, I'm not liking it, and certainly if I had any children of age, well, maybe I do, for a draft. I certainly would not permit the government, and that's correct, permit the government to draft them into one of their wars for their international banking globalist agendas that were the architects like Rockefeller and Rothschild and Kissinger and Brzezinski, and even if you get into the later years, even the Bush dynasty, the Clinton regime, the Obama regime, these people are all members. And if you look at them closely, if you really get down to the research of who these people are all royalty. And Joe, the other night you said something, and I wanted to make sure that this is, I wanted to bring this up to you off air, but I forgot about this. And, remember when we were talking about, and folks, you might remember this, we were talking about that Bilderberg meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, where Obama came out the victor and then was thusly selected to be the candidate for president of the United States. Remember that? We were talking about that subject.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. That meeting was extremely important, and we cannot underestimate, and nor should people underestimate the importance of that meeting. The people behind Hillary were really were really advocating her candidacy, as were the people behind Obama, but they chose. Folks, listen to this, and please understand this. They chose the European model, which Obama best represents. And that's how it was decided. Well, I shouldn't say that's only how, but in part, the European model. And we have to understand how these things work in order to know who we're fighting and what we're fighting, what we're up against. That meeting the importance of that meeting cannot and should not be understated or at all. So I just wanted to revisit that and to let you know that, there are people who are responsible for the selection of not only the candidates, but the selection of the president. Because just as with wars, for example, the First World War, the international bankers hedged their bets about financing and funding both sides of World War I, both sides of World War II, and both sides of the Cold War, both sides of the revolution in Russia. You've got to understand what's taking place. And today, the globalists are funding both sides or all sides of this three-dimensional war that we're fighting. It's so important to understand that what we see on TV, what we hear, what these idiot claptrap people, whether I look on Sunday morning. I sit. My father-in-law who's unfortunately got this hideous, and I mean hideous, onset of Alzheimer's. I sit with him every Sunday morning, and together we'll watch the morning show on Fox, which he can relate to, the Chris Wallace program. And I look at William Crystal. If there's one person I'd like to slap the smug smile from, is that person. and Brit Hume. I mean, take that stick out of Brit Hume, okay? Honestly. Are you serious? That stick is up there so far. And then Juan. Oh, dear Juan Williams. The reason I mention this is these are people who we are listening to, who the average American person are listening to. These are the very same people who are responsible for the eventual destruction or the ultimate destruction of our nation. Yet we are listening to these people. Boy, I just got off on a tangent there. I don't even remember what we were talking about, Joe.
I'm enjoying listening. You just keep going. I'll just sit over here and relax. No. It is sad what we're seeing, and I thought this article was interesting here. This is something I didn't notice or even know that happened. There was originally fingered as a culprit by 4 channel users has been found dead. Sunil Tripathi, originally fingered as a culprit. I'm not sure if I read that name right, but he was
definitely from Mayberry.
Police in Providence pulled the man's body from the Providence River on Tuesday, and authorities says it is possible that it is Sunil Tripathi, 22, a former Brown University student who has been missing since mid-March, reports the Boston Globe. He had a possible connection to the Boston bombing that was first raised by users of the Channel 4 website when it was pointed out that his image bore a similarity to one of the first suspects named by the FBI, who later turned out to be the older brother. Well, interestingly enough, his body has been found in the river.
Huh. Well, you know, it just happens. Look, it just happens. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boy, this echo is just terrible. Okay. You know, and I'm not sure if you know about the Saudi National. I referenced the Saudi National in the article Bad Muslim Rising, but Abdul Rahman al-Harbi, folks, do you know who this guy is? Does this name ring a bell? If it doesn't, it should, because he was in Boston at the marathon, at the finish line. Abdul Rahman al-Harbi. Okay, folks, please remember this name. Going back, and Alex Jones talked about him at great length, and going back to the fantastic job as did Alex Jones in going through all of the aspects of this al-Harbi. This is a Saudi national. If you want to talk about bending over and grabbing your ankles, here's a perfect example. And here's a perfect example of Napolitano, her smugness. You're killing me over here. Okay, wherever you're going with your headset, you're killing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Okay. al-Harbi is a perfect example of the lies and the treachery and the treason and the sedition that we are facing under this Obama regime, and every single and solitary congressman and senator that are serving this great republic. You see, al-Harbi is a Saudi national that was admitted to the United States under a special advisory option. He was admitted, let me check my notes. I think he was admitted back on last year sometime in August to attend Findlay University in Findlay, Ohio. The only problem is this: he never attended. He never enrolled. Okay, and although he was admitted to the United States under this special advisory option, which, by the way, is reserved for dignitaries and for VIPs, he was never vetted. And lo and behold, he happens to be listed as armed and dangerous, and one of the most dangerous listed by the counterterrorism agencies is at the highest terrorist level. He has got a special status as being one of the most dangerous terrorists walking the face of the earth, and he was at the Boston Marathon finish line. But he was a Saudi national. Remember, at 1:16 p.m. on Wednesday, the bombing happened on Monday. Remember, at 1:16 p.m. on Wednesday, John King from CNN, he came out and said, and I quote, "A dark-skinned male has been arrested." This, according to 2 FBI sources. A dark-skinned male is in custody. Well, you see, that reference was made to Abdul Rahman al-Harbi. And al-Harbi was in the hospital with wounds from the explosion consistent with being in close proximity to the materials used to make or the bomb itself. And here's what happened to Mr. al-Harbi. He was taken to the hospital and then placed under guard, in case you haven't heard about this, and placed under guard and then described as a person of interest and then described as being under arrest. All right? This is what's going on. Meanwhile, it took the FBI 9 hours to search his apartment. Do you remember hearing about this, folks? 9 hours. The FBI searched his apartment.
I think we said that they were doing the packing for him.
Exactly, that's what it was. But see, this Mr. al-Harbi with the smug smile on his face in the hotel room, might have been a hotel room, the hospital room, being treated by an unending line of dignitaries from Michelle Obama, perhaps, although she did, in all fairness, visit others. Whether she visited al-Harbi is a matter of speculation, but informed speculation nonetheless. You see, Mr. al-Harbi, according to all of the information we have, was one of the prime suspects in this bombing. Why is this important? Why am I talking about this right now? Well, and once again, if you want to access this information or look at this information, Glenn Beck has it, but he was listed under Section 212.3b, Section A, or Subsection A, Subsection 3, Subsection B, Subsection I, Subsection II. Okay. And he had one prior event in his event file. That number is 1648067. Not like you're going to really remember these, but here's the deal. Remember the bomb threat? Remember the schedule? Remember the FBI? They were going to do a news conference at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and suddenly, or it might have been 5:30, but suddenly, reportedly a bomb threat was called into the venue to which they were going to do that press conference. And the press was cleared, and everyone was cleared away out of that courthouse. I believe it was a courthouse that they were going to do this press conference. It never happened. Why? Well, you see, even though al-Harbi was in custody or under guard at the hospital, even though two FBI sources stated that he was under arrest, even though he was classified as one of the most dangerous terrorists to walk the planet, even though he was enrolled or in the country to be enrolled at Findlay University but wasn't, the government accessed his file at 4:35 p.m. on Tuesday after, of course, what? After this meeting between John Kerry and the Saudi foreign minister, Saad al-Faisal. Suddenly, after this meeting, which these meetings are usually open to the press, this meeting, of course, was closed to the press. Al-Harbi, obviously, in my view anyway, was the subject of that meeting, that closed-door meeting between the stellar John Kerry and the equally stellar Saudi foreign minister Saad al-Faisal, of course. What happened? Well, we don't know, except that suddenly Mr. al-Harbi became a person of interest, or was transformed from a person of interest to a dignitary once again, even though everything pointed to his potential involvement at the Boston Marathon bombing. You see, people dismiss quickly the Saudi influence, the Saudi cooperational aspects of the bombing. They're looking at these two brothers. And by the way, folks, as an aside, we are doing Joe and I are doing a lot of research on this, and Marianne, thank you so much for all of you sent. I mean, you're a blessing. People have been sending us data, information. Our sources have been giving us information. But you see, you've got to ask who benefits. You've got to ask who benefits in this. Of course, there are a number of things with this Boston bombing, but let me just finish with Al Harvey. Al Harvey, of course, was protected by the Saudis, and not only protected by the Saudis, but he was protected by members of our own government, Janet Napolitano, John Kerry, Michelle Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, and other higher government officials. You had every single high senior official within our government protecting this Abdul Rahman Al Harbi. Now, how would you feel if it was your 8-year-old son that was blown to bits by a bomb, and you found out, and I'm not saying this is the case, but you found out that this Al Harbi had a hand in this? How would you feel if you lost a loved one and to a bombing, and our government was waxing his Bentley and probably polishing something else, but waxing his Bentley at the very least? How would you feel? I'd be damned mad, angry, and I'm angry too right now. But it would be nothing like I would be if I found out that this Al Harbi was part and parcel or part of the conspiracy behind that bombing. What was he doing there? Are you telling me that we've got multi-million-dollar facial recognition software, and this Al Harbi could be at the finish line, and no one grabbed him on this 212-3B terrorist status? Explain that to me. I want to know. Someone explain this to me. Are you telling me that we had the best possible facial recognition software that money can buy everywhere or at every important location of that marathon? And these two brothers, the ones identified as being the perpetrators of this bombing, are you telling me that we did not know their identities at the time? Of course we did. We most certainly did. You know why? Because the FBI, the older brother, was an operational asset for multiple intelligence agencies, and multiple intelligence agencies were at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. You don't think that we are allowed to ask questions and to say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here with this picture, yet you're going to make fun of us for asking questions, asking legitimate questions? God forbid one of my family members gets hurt by something like this. I mean, you better watch out. And I'll tell you something else. There's a woman out there that has my admiration. Her name is Susan Price, priceforjustice.com, by the way, Susan Price. Her son in Afghanistan was executed. He was an operational asset for the CIA. And say what you will. And I understand the arguments on both sides. But her son was executed in Afghanistan. By the way, folks, and I should slip this in, through the good graces of Susan Price and also Randy Umberger, Pastor Umberger from the church in Apex, North Carolina, a suburb of Raleigh, it would appear that we're going to appear with Susan Price the weekend of June 7th, 8th, and 9th, or 8th and 9th, whatever that might be. We're going to have the we've been humbly invited to speak with Susan to compliment and support her in Raleigh, North Carolina, or outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, that weekend. That would be June 8th and 9th, I believe. And we'll put up on our website more information about this if you're interested in attending and hearing Susan Price talk, and maybe we'll say a few words and meeting us and meeting Susan Price. And you're in that area, certainly it doesn't cost anything. It would be a good thing to attend and listen. But that said, look, we had the best facial recognition software money can buy. Do you think that we could have at least stopped this? Joe, I'm going to ask you. Do you think with everything you know right now, all of the studying you've done, all of the research, all of the investigation, you've been 8 years as an investigator under my tutelage, what? Do you think we can stop this?
No. Not when the government's carrying out these attacks, and at the same time they're using this as justification to take our liberties. Not with the majority of the American public not even knowing how to tie their own shoelaces, let alone understanding what time period in life they're living in, biblically speaking, let alone what's happening around them to their own country. Their lack of ability to discern when tyranny is about to come in and murder them and their families won't even be activated now, as we're seeing it about to unfold. These people have no idea. So no, can we stop this? No. Can we turn it around a little bit? Can we save some people along the way? Yes. Is it possible to delay it? Yes. Can we stop it? No.
It's a good answer. Yeah, look, I don't think we're going to stop what's coming. I think we can mitigate our own personal damages, and this is what we're here for, in part. And this is why I ask everyone every show, what have you done to prepare, even if it's the smallest little detail. What have you done to prepare for what's coming? You know, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, at least I don't. I've asked that question. Well, you know, what's it going to be? The economic collapse, the war, the social and societal unrest, and of course I get yes, 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 and yes. And I believe that to be true, along with some natural calamities as well. But so what are we preparing for? We are preparing for survival, both practical survival and spiritual survival. And I know, Joe, you're all about spiritual survival, as am I. In practical survival, we both are. And we have to be our head. And see, the thing is we have to have our heads correct, the spiritual aspect of our lives correct in order to survive. And I think God mandates us to survive and help others to survive. Folks, don't think that you're going to crawl underneath in a nice warm bed, pull the covers over your head, and because your electricity is out, you're going to be watching TV, cable TV in the dark. I mean, it ain't happening. That was a joke. But you get what I'm saying? You were meant to be, everyone listening to this broadcast, you are here at this very moment in time, not to play golf, not to play some video game, not to. You're here for a specific purpose. God put you here because, and God plugged you into this program for a specific reason, because you could be doing a gazillion other things other than listening to us. But God put you here for a reason. You have to live up to that reason. You've got to, first of all, you've got to identify what it is. You've got to ask, you've got to hit your knees. And if you're physically unable to do so, whatever you do, just pray and ask God why you are here, what your position is, what position you're supposed to play, what zone you're supposed to play, what point you're supposed, and people that are on point, on the tip of the spear. And I'd like to include us in that grouping of people. But we need backup. We need support. We need people behind us. We need people beside us. We can't man that point all day long, 24/7, months and months and years, and Steve Quayle and such, okay? We need backup. And that's the thing, too. Your spirit, your discernment, what are you here for? Is it to educate? If you touch one person, if you get that one person, and lead that one person to God, is that what your life is all about? And that one person leads maybe 10,000 others? How are you going to be looked at in the final analysis when the book of life is open and your life is judged and you're judged before the Almighty? This is what it's all about. Are you up to the fight? Are you up to fighting the Illuminati, this Luciferian, this satanic mindset, this subculture of perversion that has overtaken our country? Are you up to that fight? I hope you are. Gird your loins. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. Look, put the armor of God on. Play your position, and let's hit the ground running. We know how the game ends. We know how this story ends. It ends in the defeat of these perverse little pukes, these worms that are satanic, these satanic entities which we're fighting. We know we will be victorious, but it's not going to be a smooth sailing. It's going to be a very turbulent plane ride. And imagine yourself, a good friend of mine told me this. I mean, just imagine yourself in a plane, and that plane is going down. It's going to land, baby. I mean, you're in a plane. That plane is going to land. And at the very least, it's going to be a really hard landing. What do? Do you grab the person next to you? Do you grab that person's hand next to you? What's your job aboard that plane? It's not to scream and yell and shout and cover your head and, it's not to do that. You've got to fulfill your appointed divine purpose in life. And who's talking about this? Why aren't the people that get paid the big bucks talking about surviving the coming economic collapse? They don't even want to recognize the fact that we've got an economic collapse coming. It's insane. I happen to tune into that. What is that Kramer guy on MSNBC?
Jim Cramer.
Yeah. I mean, what's with all anyone in the stock market today? Are you out of your mind? That's all high frequency trading. Look, protect your assets. And I'm going off now on things. And I think Joe's enjoying the break because he had a rough radio day today, very full radio day. But look, we all have to know what's coming. Know it's coming. We have to protect ourselves from what we're about to experience. We've got to really take care of not only ourselves, our family, our loved ones. And by the way, in your preparations, folks, don't forget your pets. Don't forget your furry friends. Wow. All right. So
we're going to be taking calls in the third hour, which is coming up in about 24 minutes at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. Get on hold if you want to join the show. I'm going to hit a few pieces of news. This from the 25th of April. Army orders removal of Bible references from military scopes. The U.S. Army is ordering that references to Bible verses that were etched into rifle scopes sold to the military be removed. Troops at Alaska's Fort Wainwright near Fairbanks were told to remove the Bible references which the company manufacturing the scopes engraved next to the serial numbers. The two verses referenced etched into the scopes are John 8:12 and 2 Corinthians 4:6. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have light of life. Reads the scripture from the Gospel of John. The verse from the Apostle Paul's second epistle to the Corinthians reads, For God, who said, Let light shine out of darkness, made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ.
So wait a minute. They have all this etched in the barrel of the rifle?
The company, they have these etched in the outer part of the rifle scopes.
Oh, I see.
So the company contracted to the manufacturing scopes for the military is Trijicon, Trijicon, based in Michigan. The company first came under fire for the practice in 2010 when the atheist group and even Muslims complained about the references on the scopes. General David Petraeus, who was overseeing U.S. military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq at the time, called the longtime tradition of the company disturbing and a serious concern to me and other commanders in Iraq and Afghanistan. A spokesman for the Pentagon added at the time, it is not the policy of the Department of Defense to put religious references of any kind on its equipment. The Christian News Network recalled that at the time of the original controversy, Defense Department officials stated that they were concerned the scopes would be seen as a type of crusade against other religions, such as Islam. Some groups worried that the enemy combatants might get the idea that they were being purposefully targeted with Jesus rifles. Anyway, the company decided to stop making the scopes with the Bible references on them. And this is just another small piece of information in what is a all-out, full-blown assault on the Christian religion. And we opened up the show and read earlier about the Christian, the Pentagon is using an anti-Christian extremist for their religious tolerance policy, wherein this guy says, this guy being, where is this, his name, Mickey Weinstein, said that Christians are monsters, religious oppressors, unconstitutional carpetbaggers, and bigots.
I'm going to try to call him tomorrow and arrange an interview with him. Seriously.
There's another paragraph he wrote that I can't even try to read, but it goes on to say, this article goes on to say, God help us now when someone with such hatred of conservative Christians, literally tens of millions of Americans, who says sharing this gospel is spiritual rape, is helping develop policies for how to deal with Christians in the military. Anyway.
One story. Are you done with that? I didn't mean to cut you off. One story I want to get into before the top of the hour is this. We talked about this on Pastor Paul Begley's show when we were on today. Folks, have you heard about this? The World Trade Center, the New World Trade Center now, the Spire.
Freedom Tower?
It's not. See, it's not the Freedom Tower anymore. That name has been scrubbed. Folks, wrap your minds around this collectively, individually. Think about this, and think about how in your face this is. And to those people who say the Illuminati, this power, invisible power, doesn't exist, think about this, or even this, even better. If you doubt the divine touching, the divine intervention and satanic intervention in the battle between good and evil, if you doubt that, listen to this. Today, they had the people, the World Trade Center people, were going to put this spire cap up on top of the World Trade Center, the newly built World Trade Center. Folks, making it 1,776 feet tall. Okay? Think about that, 1776. That's how tall the building will be with the spire cap. Now, the One World Trade Center, which it's now named, is of course already New York's tallest building. So when the last pieces of its spire eventually rise to the roof, the 104-floor skyscraper that replaces the Twin Towers will be just feet from becoming the highest building in the Western Hemisphere. But you see, officials, this according to the official narrative now, the official line, officials hoped that this would take place today, April 29th, 2013. But guess what? They had to suspend the operation because of weather, high winds. See, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey said the spire pieces and the steel beacon will be lifted onto the building, or we're going to be lifted onto the building to once again to make it that impressive number of 1,776 feet. Now, here's where we're coming from. I'm coming from, and Joe's coming from. I think he's on board with this possibility. 1776 shows up. Obviously, 1776 was the year of independence for the United States. 1776 is a very important number to the Illuminati. Well, why? Well, when was the Illuminati officially founded? May 1st, 1776. Here's my guess. Here's our guess, as Joe and I were talking about this. You want to know when this capstone, this cap on the World Trade Center is going to be put up there on top of this building, making it the full 1,776 feet?
October 21st, 2071. No, May 1st.
Right.
Just a few days from today.
Now, that's our guess. But how in your face? And I'm asking you, ladies and
What's
gentlemen,
wrong with a building being 1,776 feet? Okay, this building that was knocked down, that the Jonathan Cahn's Harbinger book, all the references to Isaiah, what was it, chapter 2, verse 9, I think, or chapter 9, verse 2, where we will rebuild. Obama etching it into the steel beam, the replanting of the trees, all the destruction that the politicians were ignoring, saying, we're not going to repent, we're going to rebuild. This being 776 feet tall, the Illuminati being founded on May 1st, 1776. Well, today it was supposed to go up and put on top of the Trade Center to make it that 1776 feet, and it be pushed back because of weather. As we were doing the show on Pastor Begley today, it comes out that they're going to postpone this because of weather. It will be interesting to see when they put it up. And what is the symbolism behind this? What are they trying to convey by doing this?
Well, yeah, I think people can really use their gray matter and understand that this is a message to those in the know. This is the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and saying, hey, this is a message that the Illuminati, the Satanists, the people that the power brokers, the global elite, the very people who are going to destroy us from within, this is our way of saying we're still in control. And you might think that's really a ridiculous statement. You might think, oh man, Joe and Doug, they've lost their way and they're just a couple of lunatics. But when you think about it, look at the way Washington, D.C. is laid out. Look at the obelisk there. Look at the recent swearing in of Obama facing the obelisk. What does that represent in and of itself? It's signaling, it's telegraphing certain messages that the Illuminati are in control. Just as this most recent event with the One World